Today we're digging into a really practical idea from the ancient text, the Kybalion. It's called the principle of vibration, but we're not going to get all mystical about it. Instead, we're going to frame it as a simple tool for managing your mood and actually building some momentum in your life.
So, let me ask you something. Have you ever been in a funk and just told yourself, come on, just be happy, or snap out of it? You try to wrestle your own mind into a better place, just gritting your teeth, trying to force yourself to feel good. How does that usually go for you?
Yeah, exactly. Most of the time, it totally backfires. You end up feeling even more frustrated, or it just feels completely fake and inauthentic. But here's the good news. There's a much better way, and it has less to do with force and a whole lot more to do with tuning.
Okay, so here's our game plan. First, we'll break down what this principle of vibration actually means in plain English. Then, we'll get into 4 practical tuning levers you can use anytime. We'll also cover 2 really common traps you've got to avoid. We'll see how it works in real life, and then I'll leave you with a super simple practice you can try out today.
All right, so let's get into this core idea. When the Kybalion talks about vibration, it's not really talking about, physics or sound waves. It's actually a brilliant metaphor for understanding your own internal state. The book gives us this one core line: nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates. Now just think about your own thoughts and feelings for a second. Are they ever really just still? Of course not. They're always in motion, always shifting and changing. Your mental state isn't some fixed thing. It's a process that's constantly moving. So for our purposes, let's just think of vibration as a simple metaphor for your current mental and emotional state in motion. You could call it the frequency you're on at any given moment. It's like the internal weather inside your head. It's never static, it's always changing. And we can kind of map these states out. A lower frequency state might feel agitated, scattered, or reactive. A higher frequency one feels more calm, focused, and intentional. But what's really important here is that this isn't about good versus bad. It's not a moral judgment. They're just different states of being. The real key isn't to suppress a low state, but to learn how to polarize it, to shift it. Okay, so this is where it gets really practical. If our internal state is like a radio frequency, well, how do we change the channel? How do we actually tune it? Well, it turns out we have 4 main levers we can pull to consciously shift our state. Let's look at what they are. The Kybalion gives us the master key right here. It says, will directs the attention, and attention changes the vibration. Now, that word will might sound a little old-fashioned, but all it really means is your intention. It's your conscious choice about where to place your focus. And as you've probably heard, where your attention goes, your energy flows. That is the mechanism for change. So here they are, our 4 tuning levers. First up is attention, what you choose to focus on. Second is language, the words you use, especially in your own head. Third is your environment, your physical and social surroundings. And finally, number 4 is action, the small, deliberate steps you take.
So let's quickly unpack these. Attention is your primary tool. What are you pointing the flashlight of your mind at? Language is your self-talk. To shifting from, this is a disaster, to, okay, what's one thing I can do, changes everything. Your environment is huge. A messy desk can absolutely contribute to a messy mind. And action. Action is the engine. Taking one small, deliberate step is how you create emotional momentum.
Now, before we go yanking on these levers, it is so important that we talk about the 2 biggest traps people fall into, because this whole thing is about skillful influence, not brute force. The first trap is exactly what we talked about at the start, trying to force a change. It just doesn't work. This is all about gentle, persistent influence. It's about making small, consistent adjustments, not trying to wrestle your mood to the ground. Determination is about persisting, not forcing. Real change happens by degrees. And that brings us to the second trap. And honestly, this might be the most important point of this entire explainer. This is not about having perfect control over your feelings. It is absolutely not about instant manifesting or some kind of toxic positivity that blames you when things go wrong. This is a practical tool for managing your internal response to life. That's the one area where you always have agency. Okay, so let's bring this down to earth. What does this tuning actually look like, day to day? Let's get really concrete. Let's take 3 common situations. Say you're at work and you feel totally overwhelmed. That's a low-frequency state. Your tuning action? Pull the action lever. Do one small 5-minute task. That's it. Or maybe you're feeling resentment in a relationship. Pull the attention lever. Focus on one single quality you genuinely appreciate about that person. Or procrastination. Pull the environment lever. Clear off your desk completely. Each tiny act introduces a new frequency. It shifts the momentum. All right, I want to leave you with something you can actually experiment with for yourself, like right after this is over. I call it the Tune and Prove practice.
It is ridiculously simple. It's just 2 steps. First, tune. Pick one of those 4 levers, attention, language, environment, or action, and make one tiny, gentle adjustment. Stand up and stretch. Put on a different song. Rephrase a negative thought. Just one small thing. Then, step 2, prove. And all that means is just notice. Notice any small shift in how you feel. We are not looking for a life-changing epiphany here. Just notice the change. The whole point is just to prove to yourself that you do have influence.
Because that's the real takeaway here. You are the operator. You are the one with your hands on the levers. The art is just learning how to make these small, gentle, deliberate adjustments. So the question I'll leave you with is this. What is one small thing you will choose to tune today?
So, just to recap everything. First, your internal state is like a vibration you can learn to influence. Second, you've got 4 main levers to do it: attention, language, environment, and action. Third, the goal is always gentle influence, never forceful control. And finally, it's the small, deliberate adjustments that create real, lasting momentum.
In our next explainer, we're going to build directly on this idea when we explore the principle of polarity, which is all about how you can use opposite ends of the same emotional scale to your advantage. So make sure to check out the full Kybalion playlist for the whole series. Thanks so much for watching.